I knew I couldn't trust you, you filthy mongrel!
Guys, he didn't do it, I swear!
Get out of the way, dog.
No, you bastards!
That day, they were driving Pete's car to the bar, but the town behind them was pitch black, not a single light in sight. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared ahead, racing toward them at full speed. Before they could react, Pete was already lying in the hospital. It was unusually quiet there. The hallway was in disarray, as if the whole world had disappeared. Peter shouted for help, but it wasn't until some time later that someone came out of the room. A tall, thin man, a muscular man in a wheelchair, and a talking Labrador retriever. They'd all lost their memories, not even remembering their own names. Then walked out of the hospital together, only to find a silent, empty world. How had the world become like this? Who were they? They needed answers, so they wandered aimlessly through the town. Suddenly, the Labrador Retriever spotted a severely damaged red car. It detected a familiar scent. Clearly, they had all been in this car before. The disabled man opened the glove compartment and found the license plate. It showed the owner was a man named Pete. The Labrador noticed a dent on the steering wheel, which perfectly matched the fat man's face. This meant the fat man was Pete. The registration also showed Pete's address. They followed the address to Pete's house. Just then, the Labrador detected another clue. It detected a familiar scent in the mailbox. It must have frequently relieved itself there, so this was its home. It led the tall man inside, where his photo hung on the wall. Now both the man and the dog had found their identities. The man was RQ, and the Labrador Retriever was Brian. The disabled man also recognized his identity. Though they had found their identities, the mystery of the missing humans remained unsolved. They gathered at Pete's house to discuss their next steps. Pete said he needed to use the restroom and asked them to wait for him. At that moment, Joe noticed an old newspaper on the wall. They hurried back to RQ's house to discuss their plan. Clearly, the human disappearances were connected to Pete. He might be an alien, and now they had to find a way to eliminate Pete. They needed to obtain weapons from the gun store in town. Brian found Pete and began stalling for time. Soon, the two became good friends. Suddenly, the sound of a car engine came from outside. It was RQ and Joe returning with weapons. Brian realized he couldn't stop them, so he decided to lure Pete out and let them handle it themselves. Pete already knew the truth, and they decided to escape through the back door. But Joe and RQ were already waiting there. Brian kept swearing that Pete was a good person, but Joe and RQ wouldn't listen. Without hesitation, Joe pulled the trigger. At the critical moment, Brian stepped in front of Pete, taking the bullet for him. When Brian woke up, he found himself lying on an unfamiliar machine. Pete and the others were by his side. I walked over, admiring him, and told Brian that all of this was an experiment. Earlier, Brian had said that Pete had never regarded him as a true friend, but Brian's own actions proved he was wrong. This proved that no matter the circumstances, Pete and Brian would form a loyal partnership.
Wow. So we really were meant to be friends.
I guess you were, yes.
So, are they gonna remember any of this?
No, I'll wipe out their whole day. It'll be like it never happened.
Wow.